Every day now, as Percy grows into the beauty of his life, we touch his wild, curly head and say, "Oh, wisest of little dogs." I go down to the shore in the morning, and depending on the hour, the waves are rolling in or moving out, and I say, "Oh, I am miserable. What should I do?" And the sea says in its lovely voice, "Excuse me, I have work to do." I have decided to find myself a home in the mountains, somewhere high up where one learns to live peacefully in the cold and the silence. It's said that in such a place certain revelations may be discovered, that what the spirit reaches for may be eventually felt, if not exactly understood. Slowly, no doubt. I'm not talking about a vacation. Of course, at the same time, I mean to stay exactly where I am. Are you following me? The chickens ate all the crickets. The foxes ate all the chickens. This morning, a friend hauled his boat to shore and gave me the most wondrous fish. In its silver scales, it seemed dressed for a wedding. The gills were pulsing just above where shoulders would be if it had shoulders. The eyes were still looking around. I don't know what they were thinking. The chickens ate all the crickets. The foxes ate all the chickens. I ate the fish. All summer, the mockingbird in his pearl gray coat and his white windowed wings flies from the hedge to the top of the pine and begins to sing. But it's neither lilting nor lovely, for he is the thief of other sounds. Whistles and train brakes and dried hinges, plus all the songs of other birds in his neighborhood. Mimicking and elaborating, he sings with humor and bravado, so I have to wait a long time for the softer voice of his own life to come through. He begins by giving up all his usual flutter and settling down on the pine's forelock, then looking around as though to make sure he's alone. Then he slaps each wing against his breast where his heart is, and copying nothing, begins easing into it, as though it was not half so easy as rollicking, as though his subject now was his true self, which of course was as dark and secret as anyone else's, and it was too hard, perhaps you understand, to speak or to sing it to anything or anyone but the sky. One summer afternoon, I heard a looming, mysterious hum high in the air. Then came something like a small planet flying past, something not at all interested in me, but on its own way somewhere, all anointed with excitement, bees swarming, not to be held back. Nothing could hold them back. Gannets diving. Black snake wrapped in a tree, our eyes meeting. The grass singing as it sipped up the summer rain. The owl in the darkness, that good darkness under the stars. The child that was myself that kept running away to the also running creek, to coltsfoot and trilliums, to the effortless prattle of the birds. Said the mother, "You are going to grow up, and in order for that to happen, I am going to have to grow old, and then I will die, and the blame will be yours." Of the father. He wanted a body, so he took mine. Some wounds never vanish. Yet little by little, I learned to love my life. Though sometimes I had to run hard, especially from melancholy, not to be held back. I think there ought to be a little music here. Hum, hum. The resurrection of the morning, the mystery of the night, the hummingbird's wings, the excitement of thunder, the rainbow in the waterfall, wild mustard, that rough blaze of the fields, the mockingbird replaying the songs of his neighbors, the bluebird with its unambitious warble, simple yet sufficient, the shining fish, the beak of the crow, the new colt who came to me and leaned against the fence that I might put my hands upon his warm body and know no fear. Also the words of poets 100 or hundreds of years dead, their words that would not be held back. Oh, the house of denial has thick walls and very small windows, and whoever lives there little by little will turn to stone. In those years I did everything I could do, and I did it in the dark. I mean, without understanding. I ran away. I ran away again. Then again, I ran away. They were awfully little, those bees, and maybe frightened, yet unstoppably they flew on somewhere to live their life. Hum, hum, hum. It didn't behave like anything you had imagined. The wind tore at the trees, the rain fell for days, slant and hard, the back of the hand to everything. I watched the trees bow and their leaves fall and crawl back into the earth, as though that was that. This was one hurricane I lived through. The other one was of a different sort and lasted longer. Then I felt my own leaves giving up and falling, the back of the hand to everything. But listen now to what happened to the actual trees. Toward the end of that summer day, they pushed new leaves from their stubbed limbs. It was the wrong season, yes, but they couldn't stop. They looked like telephone poles and didn't care. And after the leaves came blossoms. For some things, there are no wrong seasons, which is what I dream of for me. After I fall down the stairs at the Golden Temple, for a while I could not remember some word I was in need of, and I was bereaved and said, "Where are you, beloved friend?" 3 things to remember. As long as you're dancing, you can break the rules. Sometimes breaking the rules is just extending the rules. Sometimes there are no rules. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese high in the clean blue air are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean, the one who has flung herself out of the grass, the one who is eating sugar out of my hand, who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who is gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I have been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? One day you finally knew what you had to do and began. Though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice, though the whole house began to tremble and you felt the old tug at your ankles. Mend my life, each voice cried, but you didn't stop. You knew what you had to do, though the wind pried with its stiff fingers at the very foundations, though their melancholy was terrible. It was already late enough and a wild night, and the road full of fallen branches and stones. But little by little, as you left their voices behind, the stars began to burn through the sheets of clouds, and there was a new voice which you slowly recognized as your own, that kept you company as you strode deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing you could do, determined to save the only life you could save. I went down not long ago to the Mad River. Under the willows I knelt and drank from that crumpled flow. Call it what madness you will. There's a sickness worse than the risk of death, and that's forgetting what we should never forget. Tecumseh lived here. The wounds of the past are ignored but hang on, like the litter that snags among the yellow branches, newspapers and plastic bags after the rains. Where are the Shawnee now? Do you know? Or would you have to write to Washington, and even then, whatever they said, would you believe it? Sometimes I would like to paint my body red and go out into the glittering snow to die. His name meant shooting star. From Mad River country north to the border, he gathered the tribes and armed them one more time. He vowed to keep Ohio, and it took him over 20 years to fail. After the final fighting at Thames, it was over, except his body could not be found. It was never found. And you can do whatever you want with that. Say his people came in the black leaves of the night and hauled him to a secret grave, or that he turned into a little boy again and leaped into a birch canoe and went rowing home down the rivers. Anyway, this much I'm sure of. If we ever meet him, we'll know it. He will still be so angry. When I am among the trees, especially the willows and the honey locust, equally the beech, the oaks, and the pines, they give off such hints of gladness. I would almost say that they save me, and daily. I am so distant from the hope of myself, in which I have goodness and discernment, and never hurry through the world, but walk slowly and bow often. Around me the trees stir in their leaves and call out, "Stay a while." The light flows from their branches, and they call again. It's simple, they say, and you too have come into the world to do this, to go easy, to be filled with light, and to shine. On traveling to beautiful places. Every day I'm still looking for God, and I'm still finding him everywhere, in the dust, in the flower beds, certainly in the oceans, in the islands that lay in the distance, continents of ice, countries of sand, each with its own set of creatures, and God by whatever name. How perfect to be aboard a ship with maybe 100 years still in my pocket. But it's late for all of us. And in truth, the only ship there is the ship we are all on, burning the world as we go. Every day the sea, the blue, gray, green lavender pulls away, leaving the harbor's dark, cobbled undercoat, slick and rutted and worm-riddled. The gulls walk there among old whale bones. The white spines of fish blink from the strandy stew as the hours tick over, and then, far out, the faint, sheer line turns, rustling over the slack, the outer bars, over the green-furred flats, over the clam beds, slippery logs, barnacle-studded stones, dragging the shining sheets forward, deepening, pushing, wreathing together, wave and seaweed, their piled curvatures spilling over themselves, lapping blue, gray, green, lavender, never resting, not ever, but fashioning shore, continent, everything. And here you may find me on almost any morning, walking along the shore, so light-footed, so casual. Now that I'm free to be myself, who am I? Can't fly, can't run, and see how slowly I walk. Well, I think I can read books. What's that you're doing? The green-headed fly shouts as it buzzes past. I close the book. Well, I can write down words like these, softly. What's that you're doing? Whispers the wind, pausing in a heap just outside the window. Give me a little time, I say back to its staring silver face. It doesn't happen all of a sudden, you know. Doesn't it, says the wind, and breaks open, releasing distillation of blue iris. And my heart panics not to be, as I long to be, the empty, waiting, pure, speechless receptacle. Meadowlark sings, and I greet him in return. Meadowlark, when you sing, it's as if you lay your yellow breast upon mine and say, hello, hello, and are we not of one family in our delight of life? You sing, I listen. Both are necessary if the world is to continue going around night heavy, then light laden, though not everyone knows this, or at least not yet. Or perhaps has forgotten it in the torn fields, in the terrible debris of progress. The man who has many answers is often found in the theaters of information where he offers graciously his deep findings, while the man who has only questions to comfort himself makes music. For years, every morning, I drank from Blackwater Pond. It was flavored with oak leaves and also, no doubt, the feet of ducks. And always it assuaged me from the dry bowl of the very far past. What I want to say is that the past is the past, and the present is what your life is, and you are capable of choosing what that will be, darling citizen. So come to the pond, or the river of your imagination, or the harbor of your longing, and put your lips to the world and live your life. For I will consider my dog Percy, for he was made small but brave of heart. For if he met another dog, he would kiss her in kindness. For when he slept, he snored only a little. For he could be silly and noble in the same moment. For when he spoke, he remembered the trumpet, and when he scratched, he struck the floor like a drum. For he ate only the finest food and drank only the purest of water, yet would nibble of dead fish also. For he came to me impaired and therefore certain of short life, yet thoroughly rejoiced in each day. For he took his medicines without argument. For he played easily with the neighborhood's bull mastiff. For when he came upon mud, he splashed through it. For he was an instrument for the children to learn benevolence upon. For he listened to poems as well as love talk. For when he sniffed, it was as if he were being pleased by every part of the world. For when he sickened, he rallied as many times as he could. For he was a mixture of gravity and waggery. For we humans can seek self-destruction in ways he never dreamed of. For he took actions both cunning and reckless, yet refused always to offer himself to be admonished. For his sadness, though without words, was understandable. For there was nothing sweeter than his peace when at rest. For there was nothing brisker than his life when in motion. For he was of the tribe of wolf. For when I went away, he would watch for me at the window. For he loved me. For he suffered before I found him and never forgot. For he loved Anne. For when he lay down to enter sleep, he did not argue about whether or not God made him. For he could fling himself upside down and laugh a true laugh. For he loved his friend Ricky. For he would dig holes in the sand, then let Ricky lie in them. For often I see his shape in the clouds, and this is a continual blessing. The first time Percy came back, he was not sailing on a cloud. He was loping along the sand as though he had come a great way. "Percy," I cried out and reached to him, those white curls. But he was unreachable. As music is present, yet you can't touch it. "Yes, it's all different," he said. "You're going to be very surprised." But I wasn't thinking of that. I only wanted to hold him. "Listen," he said, "I miss that too. And now you'll be telling stories of my coming back, and they won't be false and they won't be true, but they'll be real." And then, as he used to, he said, "Let's go." And we walked down the beach together. When I lived under the black oaks, I felt I was made of leaves. When I lived by Little Sister Pond, I dreamed I was the feather of the blue heron left on the shore. I was the pond lily, my root delicate as an artery, my face like a star, my happiness brimming. Later, I was the footsteps that followed the sea. I knew the tides, I knew the ingredients of the wreck. I knew the eider, the red-throated loon, with his uplifted beak and his smart eye. I felt I was the tip of the wave, the pearl of water on the eider's glossy back. No, there's no escaping, nor would I want to escape this outgo, this foot loosening, this solution to gravity and a single shape. I am here. Later, I will be there. I will be that small cloud staring down at the water, the one that stalls, that lifts its white legs, that looks like a lamb. I wonder what it is that I will accomplish today, if anything can be called that marvelous word. It won't be my kind of work, which is only putting words on a page, the pencil haltingly calling up the light of the world, yet nothing appearing on paper half as bright as the mockingbird's verbal hilarity in the still unleafed shrub in the churchyard, or the white heron rising over the swamp, over the darkness, his yellow eyes and broad wings wearing the light of the world in the light of the world. Ah, yes, I see him. He is exactly the poem I wanted to write. He puts his cheek against mine and makes small, expressive sounds. And when I'm awake or awake enough, he turns upside down, his four paws in the air, and his eyes dark and fervent. Tell me you love me, he says. Tell me again. Could there be a sweeter arrangement? Over and over, he gets to ask it. I get to tell.